Welcome to another Rating Your Teams video. It's been a little while since the last one, and this is ahead of Gameweek 24, and the way you can submit your teams is by following on Twitter and Instagram and also sending your FPL team ID in a private message, and then I'll input that into fpl.team, but no passwords are required. Ensure that all your passwords and security information is safe. The team ID is the only thing that's needed for this video, and I'm using this website to then go on this and show you what I think of your team and how you can plan ahead with some extra moves and some insight that maybe you won't get anywhere else. So let's just get straight into this video. The first team is sent in by Wei Seng, and thank you very much for sending it in. He's got 1.3 million left in the bank. I'm not sure how many transfers he has left available, and that could play a part in how you go about this, but I'm going to be making some recommendations. So in terms of the players you have at your disposal, you could captain Salah, Fernandes, Bowen or Cancelo, but as I speak, Senegal are facing Egypt in the AFCON final, and it's quite unclear if Salah will be available to face Leicester in Gameweek 24. But what I would be doing, I think for sure, is moving Broja, despite the fact that I think he's one of the best budget forwards in the game. I think Broja's flagged with an injury and he was struggling to even walk at the end of their FA Cup game. So Broja to Edouard, you have exactly enough money to make that move possible right now. And then after that, I'd be looking at making moves in your defense more so than not, because a lot of your players do not have a double game week in 26. The only one in your defense that does is Trent Alexander-Arnold. So what I would do is move Soufal and possibly cash on for a Spurs and a Wolves defender, a bit similar to what I'm talking about for my own team in my updated team selection. So you could go for Nuri, Cody, maybe even Saiss, and then from Spurs you're looking at Davis. Dyer is flagged at the moment, but you can maybe go for him if he's fit. Right now Davis would look like the standout. So those are some ideas there, and I'm going to be showing you how your team would look with those transfers set in motion. To summarise, these are all of the moves that I think you should make, and not necessarily in Gameweek 24 itself, otherwise you're going to be taking massive hits. But Broja to Edouard is something you could do in Gameweek 24, and then maybe leave the other transfer alone, even if it's for a hit or if it's free or whatever, and then make the other transfers that I'm talking about later on, heading into Gameweek 25 or 26. So you were looking at Soufal to Davis, then we're looking at cash potentially to Ait Nuri or any Wolves defender of your choosing. Gray could become Rafinha, but in order to achieve that, you'd also have to move Fernandes to Son. So I'm going to show you how this would play about. And in Gameweek 25, you want to have Fernandes. You don't want to get rid of him before that. So heading into Gameweek 26, that's when you could do Fernandes onto Son. And Fernandes only plays Leeds in that game week, and Son has a double game week, and he's also probably a better option beyond. United do have a bad fixture string around Gameweek 28. Great to Rafinha is also, you're getting another double game week player in 26, and you can make that move in that game week. So potentially you could be looking at making a free transfer here, Broja to Edouard in Gameweek 24, potentially making one other transfer, so Soufal to a Spurs or Wolves defender in Gameweek 25, and then in Gameweek 26 you make the other three that I talked about, and you're looking at possibly a -4 or a -8, depending on how many free transfers you had in the first place. But let me know what you think of these transfer plans. And one thing to note with Wolves is that they could have a double in Gameweek 27 against Watford, and that would be very interesting indeed. And it does mean that if you have King or Dennis, you could hold on to them. In your case, we're saying you do have Joshua King, so you could hold on to him, and also Ben Foster. So your team is actually in pretty good shape with just a few transfers, a bit similar to mine. You kind of almost double the amount of double Gameweek 26 players you have with these transfer plans, and you're one of the few, well I say one of the few, but you're one of those who kept Mohamed Salah, and that could end up being a really good decision, especially if he plays in Gameweek 24. And I think it also makes your plans more clear cut, and you can also focus on other areas because you don't have to bring Salah back in like many others like myself, and instead you can focus on just bolstering your double Gameweek 26 squad. The next team is sent in by Steven, so thank you very much. And it looks like a lot of people are in the position where they have 5 double Gameweek 26 players, so similar to the Wei Seng and also myself, and the same goes for Steven. And I think in Gameweek 24, I would structure your team like this. And as you said in the Twitter message, I would also roll the transfer and not look to make any moves just yet. I don't think you need to. In my case, I only have Livramento coming on, with Alonso now not having a fixture in Gameweek 24. You have Reguilon to cover in, so I think that's fine. And you also have King and Johnson on the bench, so it's not too bad. But heading into Gameweek 25 and 26, you could look to actually make some transfers there, and you will have 2 free transfers in Gameweek 25. So you're in a strong position. That doesn't mean you have to use those 2 free transfers in that week. In terms of the captaincy, I'd be looking at Jarrod Bowen, Bruno Fernandes, Cancelo, etc. It's up to you which one you decide. At the moment, I'm going for Bowen. Before I went with Cancelo, but I think all three of those are really good choices. Now, if we look at your team in Game Week 25, one thing you could do is actually move Alonso to Cucurella or another Brighton defender. That is a possibility. But if not, you could use that transfer to actually bolster your Game Week 26 squad. So go for maybe a Wolves defender for Marcos Alonso, and they could have a double in 27 as well as Game Week 26, and just good fixtures in general for Wolves after the next 3 game weeks. And one thing I will say as well is with Leicester being knocked out, they could have a single game week in 27. That Leicester-Burnley fixture should be moved to game week 27. So Burnley will have a double game week, and Leicester will, instead of having a blank as they were supposed to, they're going to have a single game week in 27. So bear all of that in mind. But I think in your situation, I would either do Alonso to Cucurella or actually just focus on game week 26 and possibly 27 as well by going for someone like Ait-Nouri, Cody, Kilman or Roman Saiss. With that proposed transfer, getting a Wolves defender in like Ait-Nouri, you can actually have enough money to do Bruno Fernandes to Mohamed Salah in Game Week 26. But as you can see, you do still have quite a few single game week players in your team, and that means any of these kind of remaining spaces, you could focus on maybe moving one of them on, like Antonio Calvert-Lewin, to Edouard or other double game week players. So I think that would be the play in your situation, kind of downgrading that defender, Marcos Alonso, to a Wolves defender, and then doing Bruno to Salah in Game Week 26. I wouldn't be looking to get Salah back in just yet in Game Week 24 or 25. I'd instead hold that for Game Week 26 and then focus with the rest of your free transfers or even hits, just using those to bolster your double game week 26 and possibly double game week 27 squads, because Wolves, Burnley, for example, they could all be having double game weeks in 27. The same goes for Watford, and Leicester will, instead of having a blank, like I said already, would then turn into a single game week. So you have plenty of options at your disposal. Let me know what you think of all of these plans down in the comment section below, and who you'd be captaining in this situation. And definitely not, you wouldn't be captaining Cancelo over Mohamed Salah in game week 26. Salah triple captaincy even, if you have it available. I think Salah triple captaincy in 26 is the right course of action. The next team is sent in by Marcus Chia, so thank you to everyone who's been sending in their teams through Twitter and Instagram. And this looks pretty solid. Quite a few similar situations arising here, and I don't think you necessarily need to make a transfer in Game Week 24, but to kind of just get straight to the root of the problems or the ways to improve this team, I think over the coming weeks you want to be looking to move one of your strikers, possibly Antonio or Watkins, onto Edouard, and then other transfers will be focused on maybe Rudiger going to a Spurs or Wolves defender, and you'd probably want to keep Cucurella for that double in 25, and then after that you can look to get rid of him, especially when they have a fixture swing around game week 27, 28, and Soufal's another one. So for example, you can do Rudiger to Ait-Nouri or Cody, and then Soufal could become Davis or another Spurs defender of your choosing. And then over the next few weeks, you could also do Bruno Fernandes to Mohamed Salah. You do have 2 million in the bank, so I don't think that will be an issue, especially when you make other downgrades and get more money. So Rudiger to a Spurs or Wolves defender will give you more money. The same goes for one of your strikers turning into Edouard. And then you could possibly have Heung-min Son as well as Mohamed Salah in your midfield. So either Jota or Foden could become Son, and Bruno Fernandes could become Mohamed Salah. So let me know what you think of this as well, and I think that's quite an easy way of sorting out all the problems you have in your team, but quite a few strengths. I like the way your team is set up. I don't think you need to make a transfer just yet because Soufal could do very well against Watford, but ultimately you probably want to get rid of him. West Ham aren't great defensively, and also just not enough doubles. There's no doubles right now for West Ham, and they have no games that are yet to be rescheduled. So I think that's kind of the best way to go about it. And also with Wolves, I think I'd recommend any of their players to most people, because not only will they have that double in 26, but potentially in game week 27 as well. The next team is sent in by Emmanuel, and it looks very solid for Game Week 24. I would be looking to captain De Bruyne here, and my vice captain would be Bowen. You could go for Trent, whoever it really, and I would have Johnson on the bench, and you could actually go for Fabianski instead of Foster. That would be the only change to the team that's here on screen. I think one of the problems is the goalkeeper, so I would be looking to move Fabianski on if you can, but it's not really, let's say, a priority. And if I were to make one transfer to this team in Game Week 24, it would be possibly Calvert-Lewin down to Edouard, because you gain a Game Week 26 player who has a double, and also someone who can do very well, an informed player in Edouard. So I think there's quite a lot of positives there, and that's why I'm recommending Edouard a lot in my recent videos. And now I'm going to show you how your team would look like in Game Week 26 with all of the proposed transfers. And even though you might have to take a few hits, I think it will actually be worth it taking all of these hits in order to achieve quite a solid team. Other than the Calvert-Lewin to Edouard transfer, which you could do in Game Week 24, the other moves you can make in Game Weeks 25 and 26 include Fabianski to Jose Sarr, also James to Ait-Nouri, KDB to Mohamed Salah, and also Foden to Son, and that gives you plenty of double game week players here. You can look to vice captain Son if you want, or even captain him. I would look to triple captain Salah if you can. If not, just use the normal captaincy. But this gives you quite a lot of double game week players in 26. The only problem here is that you don't really have too many double game week players in 25, and that could be a problem really. But other than that, I think it still looks pretty fine. You've got Malpai there who has a double in 25, but the rest of your team, you don't really have any United or Brighton assets. But at the same time, I don't think it's really a great set of doubles for either team, so you could get away with that. But yeah, one other thing you could do is, before getting rid of KDB for Mohamed Salah, you could actually move De Bruyne to Bruno Fernandes and then to Mohamed Salah, but that would incur yet another hit. So it's up to you how you go about it. And in Game Week 27, you should be fine. You've only got the Liverpool players who are going to be blanking there, and the rest should be more than good. Now here we have FPL United's team, and he's got 7.1 million left in the bank, so that gives you plenty of flexibility in terms of your future transfer plans. Your team looks pretty fine for Game Week 24, and I'm not a big fan of Rashford, but he does have that double in 25, then you can look to get rid of him. And I think over the coming weeks what you can do is move Alonso to any defender of your choosing. You could even go for Robertson because of the amount of money you have at your disposal. And then ahead of Game Week 26, you can move Jota to Salah, even though that might seem a bit sideways. So maybe what would be the best course of action for your team is actually just avoiding Robertson, going for just another double game week player like the Wolves and Spurs defenders we've discussed extensively in this video, and then bring in Mohamed Salah for Phil Foden, and also Rashford could become Heung-min Son in Game Week 26, and you'll still have plenty of money left over. And I think other players you can maybe improve on are Brownhill. You could probably have enough money to move Brownhill on to Rafinha, and then Dawson, who is a single game week player in 26. He's got no doubles really for the rest of the season as things stand. He could also move to another defender, so if you don't go for a Wolves defender, you can bring one of those in. It depends on which one you prioritize between Spurs and Wolves, but you can ultimately get both of them in. Right now, I'd be inclined to go more for the Wolves defenders. I think they have just as good of a defense as Spurs, and also they could have a double in 27 alongside Game Week 26. So that's kind of the plans I'd be setting in motion for your team. And then after the doubles are done for Watford, so possibly after Game Week 27, you can also get rid of one of those Watford assets as well. But that's looking further ahead. I'm not a big fan of Foster, but he does have a double in 26. He just kept his first clean sheet of the season, and your team is still in pretty good shape. But I think Rashford is definitely one I'd look to get rid of in Game Week 26, and I'd probably look to get Heung-min Son and Mohamed Salah in your team by Game Week 26, and you should have more than enough money to do so. The penultimate team we're talking about here is from Marco, and this is how his team looks like without any transfers, and he has 5.1 million left in the bank, all the chips left, and only one free transfer. But I don't mind one or two hits for your team, I think, and you can bolster your squad for Game Weeks 25 and 26. So I'm going to be showing you some transfer suggestions, and you can let me know what you think of them. And you already had some ideas in mind and some players like Bruno Fernandes, and I think Bernardo Silva would probably be the one in your midfield that I'd look to get rid of to facilitate that move. And then you can also move Calvert-Lewin to Edouard. That seems like a really popular move. I keep talking about it, but that's something you could do. If not, maybe Joao Pedro, who does have a double in 26 and could have one in Game Week 27. But would you prefer him over Calvert-Lewin in the long term? Maybe, maybe not. But in all likelihood, you probably wouldn't. And Cucurella's there for Game Week 25, so that's fine. You can keep him, and you have more than enough really to deal with Game Week 24. You don't even need to make a transfer in Game Week 24, but you can enhance and improve your squad ahead of those two double game weeks we have coming up. And now I'm going to be showing you how your team would look like with these proposed transfer plans. To summarise what you can do with your team, Marco, you can take a -4 in Game Week 24, and you can move Bernardo and DCL on for Fernandes and Edouard for a -4 hit, then make no transfers in Game Week 25, and then in Game Week 26 potentially take up to a -8. So Alonso, Dawson, Foden and Fernandes would all be offloaded to get Cody, Davis, Son and Salah in for a -8 hit. You don't have to make all of these transfers, but as you can see, you are left with a full squad, almost a full squad of double game week players in 26, with the exception of Jarrod Bowen, and you have a pretty strong looking bench as well, and you should be fine in game week 27, where Ramsdale and your triple up in Liverpool are the only ones that are going to be missing game week 27, so you should be fine there as well. So let me know what you think of those transfer plans. I think it looks pretty solid, and for most people, having Salah and Son looks like the best course of action, and the same goes for myself. But if I decide to get Bruno Fernandes in game week 25, then it makes sense for me to also get Salah and Kane. So it's going to be interesting to see how these different variables play in each other's favour. and whether those who go for Son will actually profit more than those who get Kane in. So it's going to be very interesting, and all the chip strategies and also plans, the transfers are all going to be wide open, but I think there are certain moves. So getting Wolves players, for example, getting Salah back in, and then a Spurs attacker, those all look pretty basic and a lot of people will be going for those, but I think they're pretty solid and they're going to improve most people's teams, and I'm looking to do quite similar moves myself, and you'll find out in my updated team selection video. The final team we're going to be reviewing today is by Sudhindra, so thank you to everyone who sent in their teams, and he's got Sanchez and Gaeta in goal and a pretty solid defence, a double City there with Diaz and Cancelo, and he's got Ronaldo with double Watford attack, he's got Jota, he's got 4.5 million left in the bank, one free transfer, and it's going to be interesting to see how you deal with all of this. So with Trossard, I think you might as well keep him for that Double Gameweek 25 fixtures, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was rested in one of them, or should I say benched, because sometimes Potter does change things tactically, especially against the bigger teams, so it wouldn't be surprising if he was benched against United. But what I would be looking to do with this team, in Gameweek 26, Ronaldo could become Harry Kane, and then you can move one of those midfielders you have onto Mohamed Salah, and in this case you could actually move Jota on. That's the only player you can really afford to then put up to Mohamed Salah. But if you want to actually keep him and maybe move another midfielder, you could actually consider moving Diaz or another player to a cheaper striker or defender, depends on which position you downgrade. But Trossard could actually be one of those facilitators and enablers in Gameweek 26. I'd probably look to get rid of him as soon as possible, so after that Double Gameweek 25, and that will give you enough money to then move someone else onto Salah and keep Jota. But it's up to you. But ultimately what I would look to do in your situation, and I haven't recommended it to many other people really because you have quite a different team structure, is actually get Harry Kane in for Ronaldo and then get Salah in for someone else. But if you think that's going to be too complicated and you can't afford both of them whilst lacking the rest of your team, then maybe just downgrade Ronaldo to Edouard in Gameweek 26 or another striker, and then you'd be able to keep Jota and maybe make other moves in midfield like Heung-min Son and Mohamed Salah. But that's going to be a bit interesting whether you decide to go for Harry Kane or Heung-min Son, and the same goes for myself because I actually have quite a good case to go for Harry Kane. But those are my thoughts on your team. I think you don't need to make too many transfers, but even Diaz, despite how good City are defensively, he could be one you could look to get rid of. And Ben White does have a double in 26, so I'd look to keep him. Sanchez has that double in 25. But Gaeta, you could actually move him on to Jose Sarr or Aaron Ramsdale, and I think you will actually be pretty fine there for Gameweek 26 and beyond. You know, both of those goalkeepers are very good up until the end of the season. You could also consider going for Robertson, but I think you want to focus more so on getting Salah back in and also making other moves with your premiums in midfield and attack. And then one of those Watford players up front, you could actually move on after Gameweek 27 if they do indeed have a double there, and you'll be fine. But yeah, your team looks good. Those are my kind of ideas for the transfers you can make. Let me know what you think. And this has been very fun, you know, talking about everyone's teams, and we can see some similarities and parallels between all of our squads and maybe some of the paths we're going to go down in order to achieve the teams, the points that we want to get. But there's going to be some differences along the way, and factors such as injuries, suspensions and many more circumstances will actually take a hold and influence certain decisions that we make, and also our paths could diverge as a result. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. We're almost at 1,000 followers on both of those platforms, so thank you very much to everyone who's already following. And the same goes for YouTube. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers, so be sure to smash the like button and all of that good stuff, and join the Discord server. The link is in the description below. The same goes for all of the tiers for the channel memberships. If you become a legend, you can have exclusive early access to all of my videos. Good luck with Gameweek 24 and the rest of the season. I'll be interested to see what your chip strategies are, and in my updated team selection I actually talk about what my chip strategy currently is, although nothing is set in stone. And what I believe you should do is just have an open mind, you know, have a clear plan, but at the same time be willing to adapt and change your plans depending on the circumstances, because it's not always black and white. But thank you very much once again, and I'll see you next time.